Welcome to Married to History, where we try to be informative, entertaining, and family-friendly.
Aloha, I'm Christopher. I have a fancy piece of paper on my wall that says that I know more about history than most people do.
I'm Shirley. I'm a homeschool mom that relies on good curriculum, Christopher, and Les Miserables to teach our kids history. Hey, honey, I have a history question for you.
One of these days you're going to run out of musicals, you know that?
I already did.
Oh, have you used Les Miserables before?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm on a loop.
Victory! Sorry, okay, what, you said you had something for me?
I have a history question for you.
I love history questions.
So where was Nixon trying to travel to with his Watergate? Was that the inspiration for that sci-fi show, Stargate?
Oh, man.
So I was asking Primus about this, and she thought, because she's not familiar with the sci-fi show, so she was like, I thought a Watergate was just another name for a dam. So what is that, like, was there some scandal? Like, I know there's, like, water rights fights with L.A. and Northern California. Is it that kind of thing?
You're getting your movies crisscrossed here. You're thinking Stargate and Chinatown? No.
I have no idea what Chinatown is. It's a
don't
movie? I don't know.
Jack Nicholson about the water? And
no idea.
All right, one of these days. It's probably not your speed, so
nope.
I can't blame you for not watching it. Watergate had nothing to do with water. Watergate was the name of a hotel. It's called the Watergate Hotel. If I remember correctly, so Watergate is not one of my strong points. I'm familiar with some things. I know I'm not a scholar on this one. So in my limited memory, I believe this is what happens with Watergate.
Wait, so it was the name of the hotel. Did the Watergate Hotel have like a waterfall or like something in it, and there was a gate?
No idea. I've only ever seen one picture of the building.
It was built on top of a dam.
I've only ever seen one picture of the building. It looked like an office building to me. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even call it a hotel. In fact, maybe I'm remembering that wrong. Maybe it wasn't a hotel. Maybe it was the Watergate office building.
No, it was a hotel.
Okay, well,
I think
anyway,
so.
If it wasn't their headquarters, then it was a place where the Democratic National Party had an awful lot of their stuff, paperwork, files, things of that nature there. Right. I think it was their headquarters, but I might be wrong. And so Nixon had his, I don't remember if it was his plumbers or if it was a different group. Nixon's plumbers were they were his elite squad, if you will.
Wait, so they weren't literally plumbers.
They weren't literally plumbers, but their job was to fix leaks.
Okay, hold on. So for absolute clarity, Nixon, Republican president.
Nixon was a Republican president from 68 to 74. When did he resign? To 70.
I have no idea.
73 or 74. I don't remember when he resigned now. He was supposed to be president from 68 to 76.
Right.
But he resigned in the latter half of his presidency after Watergate, amongst other things.
Right. Okay, so Republican president, the Democratic committee or whatever party, they have
he has his guys. He has his guys break into the Democratic headquarters to try to steal information. Mm-hmm. I don't remember if he was looking for what they had on him, or if he was looking for dirt on them, or just like to get their strategies or what. You know what they were.
I actually know.
Okay, what specifically was he looking for?
Okay, so I don't know all of it clearly, but I literally just this week listened to a cool podcast. It was called Ridiculous Crime. You and I.
Yes, I'm familiar with your Ridiculous Crimes podcast.
You and I have listened to it together before. So they were doing an episode about this author who was a major scammer. He pretended to have permission from eccentric businessman Howard Hughes to write his autobiography. And it was all fabricated. Howard Hughes had nothing to do with this biography, but he like got all this.
You can't write an autobiography about someone else.
Okay, so here's what the scammer did. He had letters that he had forged from Hughes, like his correspondence back and forth with Hughes authorizing him to be his ghostwriter for or to be the biographer.
A ghostwriter for your autobiography.
Well, yeah, and then he has letters later from Hughes going, you know what? It'll be better if it's an autobiography. So you can just continue what you're doing, and you're my ghostwriter now for my autobiography. And so he like faked interviews between him and Hughes and stuff. And of course he got all this advance money from the publishers. Anyways, so apparently Hughes had given some large amount of money to President Nixon's brother to help bail out his restaurant or bakery or something like that. And in this book, this scammer, he like doubled the amount of money. He wrote that it was way more money. And the fact that it was like this businessman is helping out the president's brother, like it was already suspicious. And then you say that it was like twice as much money. It made a lot of people go, wait, Nixon's being bought out by a businessman? Like, what is happening here? And so someone in the publisher's office saw this in the manuscript and they gave it to the FBI. And so now the FBI and then it was given to the White House. Nope, I think I got that backwards. It was given to the White House. So Nixon was aware that Hughes was apparently claiming to have given all this money to his brother. And then the White House, like, got the FBI involved. Anyways, it made people question Nixon. And so part of what was going on is they wanted to get more information about this leak, the virality of it. Like, what do they know about me and my brother and our dishonest ties to dishonest people? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm not doing the story justice, but I know that's part of the reason that he got into Watergate.
Okay.
Or that he sent his plumbers in.
Well, the gist of it is that they got caught.
Yep.
So everybody knew that he was behind it. He did not live down the scandal. Eventually that combined with a lot of other things, because in the tail end of his presidency, things were just collapsing on him. So Nixon, like a lot of other people, was a very vengeful, I guess you could say is the right thing.
Yeah, I think that's a good word for it.
He was not, he held a lot of grudges. He was very, very mad that he did not win the presidency when he and Kennedy ran against each other.
Wait, but he was president.
He did. He eventually became president. Yes.
He's still bitter about the last time when he ran.
Like I said, he held grudges.
Grow up, dude.
We know there was a list of, if not an actual written list, that he had a mental list of all the people that had ever wronged him, or at least of a substantial number of people that have ever wronged him. I remember in an interview I was watching with somebody that was on his staff for a time. They were looking at a list of reporters that were going to be at a press event, and Nixon goes to the guy and says, "Hey, what's this SOB doing on here?" Where it's like, what, he's a reporter or something, I don't remember. Yeah, but he wrote that unfavorable thing about me back in this thing on this magazine or something like that, and crossed him out of there. So yeah, he held grudges and he remembered these things.
Clearly a stable man, good for leading the country.
And we also have reason to believe that he was of the paranoid side. So he was very much like MacArthur in this sense, in that he was convinced that his political rivals and professional rivals were out to get him, were constantly plotting against him.
Hence why you have to send plumbers into breaking into
it created a very unstable atmosphere, yes. So there were quite a few things that went down in his own conduct. So I want to be clear. Well, there were political attacks against him, but this is not something that's new or unseen in political things, especially between Democrats and Republicans in our history. But this is another case where his own paranoia, he brought an awful lot of this stuff onto, or encouraged, at least shall we say, an awful lot of this stuff on himself because of the way in which he reacted to it all.
Right, so, he started a vicious cycle for himself. And
in particular, making enemies out of the press. So, especially today, we've seen that there have been presidents that the press has gone to war with, I guess you could say. Trump being a good example. I'd say that the press is getting better about being harsh with Biden of late. I think they were harsh with Bush on more than a fair number of occasions as well. And so, the same thing was true with Nixon. And while a lot of people make fun of how pathetic Trump was in his dealings with the press, I think, okay, well, dude still didn't hold a candle next to Nixon.
Really?
That's my limited opinion.
Yeah. So
let's bear in mind, I'm sure I've said this before, that after the 50s, stopped really caring a lot. So while I know a lot of things, I don't have the same breadth of knowledge about Watergate, for example, that I do about, if you would ask me, the Zimmerman telegram.
Okay. So, but correct me if I'm wrong, if you know. wasn't part of Nixon's downfall the fact that because he was so paranoid, he recorded everything, like he had audio recordings of every phone conversation he had with anyone. He was creating his own evidence to be used against himself, wasn't he?
So that wasn't his goal, but that is end up what happening. Yes. So Congress knows about or finds out about all these microphones and these recordings.
Yeah.
They subpoena him, and you're not allowed to defy a congressional subpoena. But he, in the classic political example, did eventually release all the tapes to them, but edited out the parts that were important to national security.
Which is everything that makes him look bad.
Yeah, anything that he thought made him look bad.
That's too easy.
I don't remember off the top of my head if they ever did get the original unedited tapes or not.
Okay.
But in either case, so they had plenty of evidence. I think it is foolish to deny the idea that Nixon was going to get impeached. So he would have been the second president to get impeached after Johnson. But to give him credit, he saw how this was going and resigned before they could actually impeach him.
Right.
I dare say that if any of the presidents who have been impeached had lost their impeachment, I dare say he would have been the one.
Right. But
he would have been he would have been the one to get kicked out of office.
Yeah.
If we haven't said this before, impeachment is just the trial. It is not the punishment.
It's not being impeached is not the same as being kicked out of office.
Yeah. So Johnson, Clinton, Trump, I think those are the only three guys that have been impeached. Yeah. None of them were kicked out of office. I wouldn't have been surprised if Nixon did get kicked out of office had he been impeached.
So he quit before even the trial, the impeachment
process.
He
resigned before anybody even put impeachment charges against him. Oh. At least I don't remember reading about anybody actually going so far as to putting forth the articles of impeachment.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's how we got President Ford, the only president in the history of the United States for whom nobody voted.
Yeah. So you have to explain that because
to be fair, he was a congressman, so people did vote for him.
Oh, he wasn't a complete nobody.
No, people did vote for him to get a seat into Congress.
Okay.
But there was no election of any kind to get him into the office of vice president and then president of the United States.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know how that works out, but explain for listeners who are not as smart as me.
For those who may not be aware, the process of succession is that if the president dies in office, well, then the vice president is to take over. Since the days of Jefferson and Burr, candidates have been running together. Presidents and vice presidential candidates have been running together instead of, the first place person got president, second place person in the general election got vice president.
Do you know how I know that?
Do I know how you know that? I'm going to guess Hamilton.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yes, Nixon ran with somebody else, but among the things that kind of lead to Nixon's downward spiral, his vice president, if I remember correctly, Nixon fires him, which I got to admit, I was kind of surprised.
Are you allowed to?
I didn't think the president was allowed to do that, but I guess he could, because it happened. I mean, I've never read the part of the Constitution that now that I say that, I should go looking for it, because it seems odd to me that how come I never looked that up? That seems curious enough that I would want to know how that came to be. But however, whatever the case might be,
I expect you to look it up for our corrections for next episode.
Me, you do it. Isn't that your job?
No.
I've got papers to grade and students to teach and whatnot. So, the Nixon fires his vice president and brings on Ford to be the new vice president.
So no one had to vote for Ford. Nixon was just allowed to choose.
To my knowledge, he didn't even need congressional approval to get Ford into the office, but I might be wrong on that case. And then Nixon resigns, so Ford, now being the vice president, becomes president. Never ran an election campaign.
And was never reelected.
Was not reelected. He did win the primary, though.
He did?
Yeah, so in the next election, in the 76 election, he ran against Reagan in the primary. Ford defeated Reagan in the primary and then went on to lose against Carter.
Wow. He beat Reagan.
He beat Reagan in the primary. I don't remember what the margin was.
Wow. So what did Nixon do after? Because most presidents, they go on and they live cushy lives and make millions of dollars by speaking at graduation ceremonies and stuff, writing their memoirs. What did Nixon do? Did he die in obscurity?
I don't know. I have no recollection of him doing anything of notoriety after his time as president was over. He might have very well have retired into relative obscurity. I wouldn't be surprised if he got involved in a project here or there, but I don't remember hearing anything of him after he resigns from the presidency.
But that would have been the smart thing to do. Okay, go ahead.
One might argue that yes, that was the case. It was the smart thing for him to do, just lay low and wait for people to forget about it. His funeral, so he died in our lifetime. I remember seeing the news conferences of his funeral, and his funeral was well attended. So there were some people, at least, that had, or a significant number of people that had, or at least paid their respects to him, if not had a fondness for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got an unsavory reputation amongst presidents of the United States, but there's no denying that those 2 elections that he was reelected. Yeah. He won 2 elections fair and square. People did like him.
Okay, but why though? Before his downfall, what did he accomplish that was good?
That's a good question. I do not know specifically what he did to curry the votes in the years that he ran. I don't remember what his campaign was. I don't remember who he was running against on both occasions. So I don't remember if LBJ ran again. Don't think so. So okay, Kennedy defeats him in 60. LBJ does run for re-election and is president up until. Oh, I got my years wrong.
I have no idea. Okay, do you want me to look all this up?
Okay, I got this. Okay, I think I said Nixon's election years wrong. Right, so Kennedy is elected in 60. LBJ is re-elected in 64. So that means that Nixon was elected in 68, and he should have served. No, I did say that. And he should have served all the way up to 76. Okay, so no, I think I got the dates right. Sorry. It's hard remembering some of these years.
I don't know.
Sorry, I do not remember who the Democratic candidate against Nixon was in his first election. I don't remember who they ran against him in his second election either. So I don't remember who he ran against. I don't remember how he beat them, what he used to market himself. I do know that among some of his successes, he was invited to China. That was a huge boon for international relations. We have pictures of him being invited to tour and inspect the Chinese military troops. So that was a good thing. That marked a good improvement in U.S.-Chinese relations, and one of the clear markers that while China and Russia are still the communist buddies, that China is trying to have a better relationship with the rest of the world, or at least with the United States at the time. And during his time, the Vietnam War is won. And I want to be clear about this. Won. History books tend to say that we lost the Vietnam War. That is not the case.
It's more complicated than that.
It's far more no, it's not even more complicated than that. We won. In 73, I believe, the Northern Vietnamese and all the different parties that are involved in the Vietnam conflict gathered together. I don't remember where. I want to say Paris, but it could have been somewhere else. I'm inclined to say it was Paris.
Neutral ground.
And they hashed out the peace treaty, which basically the United States got everything that it wanted, or at least as I recall, everything that it wanted out of the deal. Ostensibly the idea that, okay, North Vietnam stays, does not invade South Vietnam. South Vietnam gets to remain its own independent country. And amongst other things, in the treaty, there is a promise that goes in that, hey, if ever the North Vietnamese break the treaty or whatnot, the U.S. is going to come in again and help South Vietnam. So I say that we won because, to the best of my knowledge, the North Vietnamese, our enemies, came to the peace table. They said yes to our demands. That means that we won the war. We got everything that we wanted to out of it.
Then why do people say that we lost?
Because this is what happened. It might have been before the treaty is signed, but at least in the near timetable after the treaty is signed, Congress, now being a Democratic Congress instead of a Republican Congress, and the Democrats, even though it was Kennedy and Johnson that got the U.S. involved in this war, and who were both Democrats, and the Truman Doctrine, Truman was also a Democrat, that further got us into this war. By the end of the war year, so at the end of the 70s, the Democrats are the anti-war party. They're ones that want to get out of Vietnam. And the Republicans are the evil, low-down, dirty ones that want to keep prosecuting the war. So yes, I've always thought that was
interesting how quickly that changes.
Kind of funny.
Yeah.
So Congress passes a resolution. I don't remember what it's called, or I think they even call it an amendment. It's not an amendment to the Constitution, which basically says that, all right, if ever the U.S. military is going to get involved in Vietnam again after this point, the president cannot just use his presidential powers to enact the military. He has to have Congress's permission to do so.
Oh, because when we went into Vietnam at first, Congress
Oh,
didn't.
and Korea, the same thing. Both of the this is one
Because
of
it
the reasons
wasn't
why
a
they call
war.
them police actions. Yeah, Congress never. Well, Congress did eventually. Okay, fine, you can have money and whatnot.
Okay.
Congress never approved.
Got it. But so this was saying that Congress would have to approve next time.
Yeah, on this occasion, and for Vietnam, at least, I might have stretched that whole area, including Laos and other countries that were in that area.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, Nixon or any future president was going to need Congress's permission to do so.
Yeah.
All right, so when Nixon resigns and Ford comes in, new president, North Vietnam does what countries around the world do to this day. New president comes into the United States and you test the boundaries. And you can see this in every manner of society. Students do this with new teachers and substitute teachers.
Yep.
Prisoners do this with guards and wardens. Workers, staff do this with new bosses or new supervisors.
Yeah.
You test that water. All of the players know where the line is, and they toe that line, or even step a little bit over. They push that line, whenever a new guy shows up. So yes, Ford is a new president. The North decides to test him. The North begins some minor incursions. They start supplying the Southern Vietnamese who, the Viet Cong, the Southern Vietnamese who don't want to be part of Southern Vietnam anymore. And sure enough, not only does Ford not do anything, but even if he wanted to, Congress wouldn't let him do it. And so the North Vietnamese keep pushing until eventually the North Vietnamese just full-on invade in 75, I believe it is. So the war is over in January of 73.
Okay.
The North full-on invades in 75, takes over all of South Vietnam.
What?
So they succeed in uniting Vietnam. The reason they are able to do this is because Congress refused to hold up our end of the Paris peace deal.
Dude.
In other words, like Afghanistan that we were talking about not that long ago, and like with Reconstruction in the South, once again, promises, our nation made promises to these people, and once again, Congress decided it's Congress's fault on this occasion, but the gist of it is, once again, the United States made promises to people that we were going to protect them, help them, do these things, and then when the time came, we reneged. The country reneged. That is why people say that we lost Vietnam. No, we didn't. We won the war, but then we did not honor our obligations after the war was over.
They're counting that time after the treaty.
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I dare say the reason they do this is because there are some people that gain power, influence, or prestige, at least at the time, from the idea that, yes, we lost this war.
Wow. So was Nixon pro-war?
Nixon was president during the war. He's the one that led ordered a lot of the campaigns during the war that increased, like all the presidents before him did, increased military presence, prosecuted the war to a degree. Unless I'm mistaken, I don't think there's anything significant that you could say that he did to cause the war to be brought to the end when it was.
Okay.
He might have increased the air campaigns, which I know were very devastating to the North Vietnamese. I know that one of the things that got him into trouble again, leading to his resignation, was he, without authorization, started dropping bombs in, was it Cambodia or was it Laos?
I have no idea.
I don't remember either. It's the country that neighbors Vietnam. I forget what it was called at the time. I don't know if it's still on that name or if that country still exists anymore, because things might have changed in that part of the world.
Aren't you a geography teacher?
I am, but I don't teach much about modern geography in that specific place of the world. I rephrase, I don't teach much about modern political geography in that specific part of the world.
Okay.
Geography in American high schools centers on what are the 50 states, what is the climate of every continent, pretty much.
I would put that in a science class, not a social studies class.
Well, because part of geography is culture, but culture is influenced by these things.
Oh, okay.
What was I saying? So yeah,
he bombed that country.
Sorry, so yes, he without authorization, he bombed in that country. I think he might have even had American soldiers invade that country. I might be wrong on that issue. I just remember he went in with military forces into a country that he was not authorized to do. That was ostensibly neutral during the war, but it was well known that the Vietnamese were cutting through here to sneak around the north-south boundary line, so that they could smuggle supplies and soldiers and whatnot into South Vietnam. So one cannot blame him for recognizing for what it was and attacking it for legitimate strategic means, but politically it was a bad call.
Which he is the king of making bad political calls.
I wouldn't say he was the king of making bad political calls, but yeah, he made up more than a couple.
He made too many. Okay, what is your opinion on using the term whatever gate to refer to any and all scandals in America since Watergate?
I don't think it's ridiculous.
I hate it so much.
I remember when Clinton got into trouble, there was the Whitewater affair, and I remember...
Oh, I was getting those confused. Yeah, I've heard of Whitewater. I have no idea what that is, though.
So, yeah, I don't remember either. I was a kid at the time, and I haven't gotten enough care to look up what the deal with that was. But I remember at the time thinking that, oh, they're calling it Whitewater because it sounds like Watergate. But it might have been like, no, some actual thing, like a place or a name or something like that from that event might have been Whitewater.
Right.
But yes, and the plenty of scandals of late people are calling Gate of some kind.
It's just so
because the
lazy.
references back then.
It's so lazy though, and it's so annoying. You
say lazy, but it's effective means of communication because when people say that, people, at least in the know people, remember that, and it's an effective tool because this says to people that don't read more about it that this thing, Obamagate or whatever, I don't know.
I'll give you a new one.
Okay.
Or a recent one. Cakegate.
Okay, no idea what that is.
It's on TikTok.
Okay.
It's cake drama.
Okay, no idea what that is there, but okay. But when people hear that, some people are going to think they're going to remember how awful Watergate was, and just on that connection alone, it's an effective means of getting people to think that, this is equally as bad.
But it's really not.
Yeah, so it's misleading, but this is a message. This is propaganda.
It's code word for scandal.
This is what the communication game is.
It's so annoying, though.
It's so annoying, yeah, but this is one of those things where I wonder if perhaps this is but if your side does it, you're going to be okay with it.
No, not for me. I think all of it is stupid.
Okay, well, I would say like on the same lines of this, you got the Boston Massacre and the American Revolution. Massacre. 3 people died.
Yeah.
Well, technically 5. 2 more died a couple days later from their wounds. But that word, massacre,
it's
hold it back to
than
every other word that you think of it. It has that connection, so this must have been super bad.
It's stronger than calling it the Boston incident.
It's an effective means of propaganda.
The Boston
of getting
skirmish.
That thing upon. It's not, you point out rightly, it's not completely honest. One could make the fair argument that it is not fair politics or it's not fair play, but you can't deny that it's effective.
But see, I wonder if it's at the point where people don't even know the connection anymore. Gate is just the code word for scandal, and they don't even know the origins anymore.
Seeing as how I've watched an awful lot of videos where supposedly college-educated people can't even identify where the U.S. Capitol is, or what any of the 50 states are, or what that dihydrous monoxide compound is in water bottles that they're signing petitions to ban, then yes, I would not be surprised at all if most people out there today do not draw the connection to, or do not have the understanding of what Watergate is. But I wouldn't be surprised if enough people just know that term Watergate in the back of their minds and know bad. So if they hear gate, they think bad.
That's all they need.
Gate. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Oh, the football one.
Yes.
Yeah, the inflated, not inflated enough football.
I knew there was a funny one that I enjoyed not that long ago, but I couldn't think of what it was.
Yeah, well, so all the modern ones that I'm aware of are on TikTok, and it's like Cakegate when this bakery business owner
So this
was
is
bad.
an example of how words will change. Give it 10, 20
Tattoo Gate, that's another new one.
Give it, maybe not even this long, but I'd say give it, I'm inclined to say give it 10, 20 more years, and that's what the word gate will mean
It'll just
in
mean
the dictionaries.
Drama.
Something like that,
It won't even mean scandal anymore. It just means drama. That's all it is.
I'm reminded of one of my favorite scenes in Back to the Future where Marty McFly asks, after he finds out that his mom's got the hots for him, he asks the doctor, "Doc, is this going to turn me gay?" And the doc, very confused, just says, "Why shouldn't you be happy?" Because the word has changed. The word had changed from the 50s to the 80s.
Yeah. I know. Language is always changing. It's just like my personal pet peeve. It's annoying. Because even, like, I know what Watergate is. Basically, like, I know I've heard it. But I always forget that Watergate was the name of the hotel. Like, that's why it's called that. Just because it happened to be, like, the headquarters was in the hotel. Like, that's where the information was stolen from.
So, and on this lines, this is one of the reasons why, like, there are some cases you've observed where I feel a little bit more passionate about some symbols or some words that people are changing.
Right, why are you on the other side?
Because to me, I like what those things originally stood for, and I want them to maintain that meaning instead of having this other meaning, which not always but often enough I think is a worse or terrible or completely supplants the original meaning. And because those things, those symbols, those words are important to me, I want them to maintain that instead of being corrupted.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that all corruption is bad corruption, but it's an effective word. They would be corrupted to mean something else.
Right. All right, can you tell me anything else about Watergate or Nixon or...
Nixon is also mentioned in that Billy Joel song you like.
Was he?
Yeah.
I haven't listened to...
He's got a line somewhere in there.
We Didn't Start the Fire. That's the song you're talking about.
Yes. His name is mentioned in there somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
I don't remember where.
Kind of a big deal.
Oh, he's Richard Nixon back again.
Back again? What does that mean then?
Because he became president.
Oh.
So he was VP, ran, lost. Most VPs, if they lose their attempt to become president of the United States, that's it. They disappear into obscurity. Nixon is one of those rare cases where, no, he came back. Not only did he come back, but he actually got reelected.
Oh.
Unless they became president because they were VP and somebody died, most VPs have, if they ever did become president, served one term. Nixon is one of those rare occasions where, no, he was VP, came back, and actually managed to be elected twice to be president of the United States.
Are you making a prediction for Biden?
I'm not making a prediction of Biden, but if he does it, then I believe he would be the first one to do it since Richard Nixon. Trying to think. Yeah, because no other VPs
Gore
have been...
failed, that's all I know.
Yeah, no other VPs have been elected. Bush the first was the only one, and he only served one term.
Yeah. Okay. So...
Bush the first.
Can you tell me anything more about what Stargate has to do with Watergate?
Stargate has nothing to do with Watergate. I don't know where you brought that connection. Is it just because of the gates?
Yeah.
Okay, no.
That's all it takes, right?
Stargate... Stargate is a wonderful sci-fi franchise that I remember the movie wasn't terribly impressed with, and the first season or two of the TV show also wasn't terribly impressed with, but at least round about the third season and beyond there, I really fell in love with that show, and I enjoyed Stargate Atlantis. I had higher hopes for Stargate Universe than what I got, and I've heard rumor that they're gonna try to revamp the franchise in the not too distant future, so I look forward to that and hope that it's going to be good.
Were there any paranoid, bitter, immoral politicians in that
There
series?
were plenty. In fact, I dare say one of the best ones might have actually been modeled after Nixon.
No way.
Might have. It's a stretch at best.
Oh, but we love stretching here. Anything else?
You tell me. You're the one that asks questions.
I'm all out of questions.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, then please subscribe, tell your friends, and leave us a 5-star review.
If you'd like to hear a future episode with more information about today's topic, contact us on Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok at Married to History Pod, and give me a day or two so that I actually read up on something that happened after the 50s.
Also, please contact us if you have a silly question idea or if there's something from history that you would love to learn about.
Just be sure to specify which era before the 50s in your message because I don't want to be embarrassed on my own show.
Talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye. That wasn't my fault either.
Except it was because you were moving the bed.
I'm sitting down. You shouldn't have put it so close to me, or you should balance that on something more solid.
Like what?
I don't know. Table.
Exactly. Have space.
Books.
Your ringer's off?
My ringer. Yes. The one day I said that I mentioned this earlier. The one day I remembered to turn my ringer on. I don't remember why. Oh, because I was expecting a text from my mommy. Even though she did text me back, I still didn't hear it.
That's pointless.
See, I don't like these cell phones. They're weird.